Well, good morning. My name is Pastor Johnny. I am hanging out with you guys this morning. I hope that you have had a fantastic week. I am excited to not only share God's word with you, but to have kind of a really open and honest conversation with you guys today. I want to bring to your attention a saying that I once heard, and it was written by the one and only Apostle Paul. Okay, and he was writing to a church in an encouraging letter. And one of the things that he said, and I found it so interesting, and it has always kind of stuck with me, is he said, listen, anything is permissible. Anything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. He said, everything is permissible, but I will not be mastered by anything. Let me explain what Paul meant by that. In his conversation with his church that he was dealing with, he wanted them to know that, listen, there are many, many things in life, many that are phenomenal things to do, such as, going for a walk, enjoying, going to the beach, or maybe having a conversation with a beloved friend, a family member. Maybe it is taking the kids to the pool and watching them, live out their dreams and imaginations, and you sitting and enjoying a good book, whether it's, a Christian book, or maybe it's not a Christian book at all. Maybe you're one of those that loves to read, science fiction or fantasy, or you like to read things like, some people actually like reading cookbooks. I know that sounds weird, but they do. Whatever the case is. Or maybe you're one of those people that loves to cook. Maybe that's what really gets you energized or thinking, or maybe brings you peace. Some people like gardening. Some people love to go bike riding, or some of us out there, and I say us because I guess to some degree I would say, adventure seekers, such as getting on an incredible ride at whether it's Disneyland or Six Flags or wherever it is that you like to go. Some people just like to rest. Some people just like to read a good book. Some people just like to enjoy a cloudy day with the rain hitting the window and maybe a cup of tea or coffee. Some people like the energy of being in crowds, whether it's I went to a concert or I went to a populated place, a shopping area. People like to shop, whatever the case is. On and on the list goes of things that we love, and there's so much of what we love. There's nothing wrong with it. There is no, and I say that because as we're going to get into Revelation chapter 18, we're going to be looking at the great fall of Babylon. Now, if you guys have been reading with us, you've noticed that what John is really experiencing, especially towards the end of this book, which is insane that we've been in this book for quite some time now. As we're studying this, it's there are so many things that we look at Babylon. We've seen that John has unpacked a picture of like, okay, here's the big picture, and then here's the same picture with a little bit more detail, and the same picture with a little bit more detail. This is one of those chapters where John is taking us just another step further in to see what does this look like, and we're specifically looking at just one event. And I wouldn't even say like it's an event that really, we can unpack and will take 300 hours to try to understand the theological significance of. It's not like that, but it is a conversation that we just started just a few moments ago, where it's can we have an open and honest conversation? Can we have, if you will, a clear communication? And when I say that, I kind of want to preface it with this. If you are going to communicate, step one, in general, if you're going to communicate, the only way that you can clearly communicate to anyone is you are technically taking the risk of potentially offending them. True or not true? Tell me any conversation you've ever had where something you said could or may or potentially could be taken the wrong way. At the same time, if we don't take the risk of potentially offending someone, then we will not take the risk of communication, which means that no communication, either one, will happen, or two, shouldn't happen. But then if we don't communicate, then nothing happens. Nothing gets done. No one understands one another, and we are just living in assumption land. So communication is going to happen today, and communication means that there is a potential that some of you are going to get offended. And for those of you who are offended, there is a method to what to do with that offense. And I say that because we are dealing with a generation that is extremely offendable. The fact that they are extremely offendable is not criteria to then choose to not communicate at all. That would be foolish. That would be, to a certain degree, even abusive. When you don't communicate, you're in essence setting the other person up for failure. And you're also not allowing that person to know who you are because there's no communication. So that being said, if you are offended at any point, not only during this service, during this conversation, one, your offense is your own, which means that you are responsible for your own feelings. Also, what that means is that you cannot pursue anyone and say they offended me, therefore they're the ones that have to pay for XYZ. The answer is no. That's not how this world works. In fact, the fact that our world right now is working in that way just shows the lack of intelligence that this world has. That statement in and of itself should offend some. Good, we are communicating. When you are offended, you have to, if you're an adult, and I use a word adult loosely, if you are mature, that's a better word. If you are mature, what you do with offense is you take it in and you ask first, why am I offended? The next question is, now that I understand why am I offended, why do I feel the need to retaliate for this offense? And number 3, if I am offended and I want to retaliate, but I'm not willing to learn from the offense, then I am stupid. Keyword is the word stupid. In Scripture, especially in Jeremiah chapter 10, Jeremiah uses the word stupid, meaning that when humanity chooses to know that they could know something better, that they have wisdom at their hand, that they could ask God and say, God, what is your opinion on this? But they hear from God and they say, I don't agree with that opinion, so never mind. To choose to not acknowledge the wisdom or information that is being given to you, but rather you're saying, I am going to stay with the limited knowledge and the limited wisdom that I have. Like, this is my choice. I am staying in this position or in this viewpoint or worldview or paradigm, however you want to put it. That is your choice to be stupid. Because you're saying I'm limiting my own knowledge, I'm limiting my own information, I'm limiting my own truth. That's the definition of itself. Now, if that offended you, 1, why was I offended? 2, do I need to retaliate because of this offense? And why am I wanting to retaliate? 3, what can I learn? Now we may begin. Revelation chapter 18, we are told of the great fall, the fall of Babylon. What is Babylon? We've repeated this time and time again, but there's nothing wrong with repeating it once more. Babylon is the fake religion that is left behind, combined with the system of government. So you have a government and a religion that are combined together, and they are wreaking havoc. Because why? The religious aspect is doing whatever in the world it wants to because it's benefiting itself. And the government is using the religious aspect to also benefit itself and also continue the control of the people. That being said, there is a false religion, otherwise known as the harlot or Babylon. And then there is the beast, right, which is the Antichrist, but it's also Babylonianism, meaning there is a system of commerce, of government, and also of religion that is kind of working itself, working together so that the greatest benefit to themselves and to those who join, aka are choosing to trust in the beast and the false religion and the false prophet and the dragon, otherwise known as Satan. This whole system is set up so that it is a utopian world of we have everything we need. There is no need to trust or to put your faith in anything else. You have everything. Literally, physically, you have everything that you need, but you have more than abundantly, and we are supplying even the things that you desire and want so badly. Here's what happens. John is looking, and he's in chapter 17 already seeing the fall of Babylon. But now he's zooming in, kind of like when you grab your phone or your iPad and you kind of do that little pinch thing where you're like, whoa, let me see the detail here. Yes, now we're looking at Babylon. We're zooming in on it and what's going on. After this, I saw another angel. Sorry, this is Revelation 18. After this, I saw another angel with great authority coming down from heaven, and the earth was illuminated by his splendor. I love the description that is given here, because what does it mean? It means that it is, in essence, doxa. I thought only God had doxa, which is glory. Yes. But sometimes when you spend so much time with God, the doxa of God actually ends up affecting you. In this case, the angels that hang around God all the time, when they leave the presence of God and enter our realm, oh my goodness, the glory of God is still shining. But the cool thing about doxa, it's not just splendor, it's not just brilliance. Doxa comes with it a sort of weight. Could you imagine feeling and experiencing the glory, but also the weight of glory of God? I can't even wrap my head around that, okay? But that's the meaning here. This angel shows up illuminating with glory. He called out in a mighty voice, "It has fallen. Babylon the Great has fallen. She has become a home for demons." Why? Because now this Babylon, which by the way would be a European Rome, is finding itself destroyed. But it's not just kind of destroyed. It's not one of those, oh, there was a little fire that broke out. We are talking destruction. This city and its people and its population no longer exist. Like, we are talking like burnt field. All you see is nothingness, darkness, and destruction. That is why it says it is now a home for demons. It is a haunt for every unclean spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird. Why in the world are we talking about unclean birds? Because unclean birds, according to Judaism, were a category of birds that walk around and feast on the flesh of other animals. So you're probably looking at that going, you mean like vultures? Yes, but vultures aren't the only ones. There are many other birds that would do the same. This city, in all of its splendor, I mean, it was covered in every expensive thing you can think of. It was beautiful. It was awesome. People were making buckets of money off of this city and the system and the government and the religion, which is now a pile of ash. And these birds are swooping in and eating the carcasses of what is left. Why? Because the wrath of God has been poured out. And as we will find out, it was poured out all in 1 hour. Can you imagine that? All 7 bowls being poured out in 1 hour. And the haunt for every unclean and despicable beast. For all the nations have drunk the wine of her sexual morality, which bring wrath. The kings of the earth have committed sexual morality with her, and the merchants of the earth have grown wealthy from her sensuality and excess. Then I heard another voice from heaven. So what is it that John is describing? He's saying, listen, everyone on this earth had put their trust in the system. They put their trust in the wealth. They put their trust in what was coming out of this Babylon. It was the exports. It was we're going to go into a list. These were all the things that they were like, oh man, why do we have to worry? We have everything we need because it's all being supplied by Babylon the Great. But then John hears another voice from heaven, which we can only assume is God. Come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins or receive any of her plagues, for her sins are piled up to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes. If you guys remember, once upon a time, humanity tried to give itself a name. Humanity tried to build itself a tower that was reaching to the heavens. Well, guess what? Humanity finally finished its work. But it's not a tower. It's a pile of sins. And the Greek words that are used here, in that it is piling up, it's not just it's a balancing act, like we're putting blocks upon blocks. No, imagine putting a bunch of just random objects. How do you stick them together to make a tower? You glue them. The description here in the original text is such that it's saying her sins, which are kind of gooey and yuck and sticky, like the sins are just, it's one being attached to the other. In other words, they are now bleeding into one another. Like it's not just a sin. Oh, it's a pile of this kind of sin or that kind of sin. As Christians, sometimes we like to do that. We like to point out only specific sins, but never our own. Whoops. No, what they're saying is every sin possible is being thrown into this pile, and it's becoming one just massive whole out of its grotesque stickiness. These things are being piled up, and God would be unjust if he ignored it. Instead, he's judging Babylon for her choices, for her sins, and the major one being, you took the saints, You took the witnesses of Jesus, you took Israel, and you took the believers, and you killed them for your enjoyment. If you want to know the real reason why God is judging Babylon, is because of her thirst for the blood of all the innocent. For her sins are piled up to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes. Pay her back the way she also paid, and double it according to her works. In the cup in which she mixed, mix a double portion for her. As much as she glorified herself and indulged herself sensually and excessive ways, give her that much torment and grief. For she says in her heart, and this is the important thing I want you to know, I sit as a queen. I am not a widow, and I will never see grief. For this reason, her plagues will come in just one day. Death and grief and famine, she will be burned up with fire, because the Lord who judges her is mighty. When a woman lost her husband, she lost everything. In the ancient times, especially in the ancient Near East, when a woman lost her husband, she became no one. Her husband was the one that carried the weight of the family. It was rare to see a woman who had lost her husband and still, sustain the power and authority that she maybe once had. She would have to become dependent upon her children, hoping, by the way, that she has a son who could then be the man of the house. If she didn't, if she only had daughters, literally her and her daughters could potentially end up prostituting themselves just to make ends meet. That's how bad it was. Oh, but not Babylon. No. Notice what it says. I am a queen, meaning, whoa, hold on a second. Did you have a king? I don't remember you having a king. It doesn't matter. What she's saying is, even though the king is gone, I am the queen now, and I'm never, ever going to have a need, and I will never, ever mourn. Why? Because she's saying, I don't care that I don't have a man. I am so powerful. I am so influential. I have everything that... You kidding me? I don't need a man. Now, there are some people that have that attitude, and that's a conversation for a whole other day. I'm not talking about feminism here. I'm not talking about machismo. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is the attitude. What is the attitude? The attitude is that Babylon, she is saying, I am such a massive city. The whole world commerce is run by me. Like, I offer all the goods. Everyone's coming to me. Like, I have no need. I am that popular. I am that beautiful. I am that blah, blah, blah. I am the queen. And the text says what? And her destruction is at the hands of God. And he gives her a double portion of destruction. Whatever she mixed into her bowl and offered it to everyone and said, come on, forget God and just trust in me. You're getting double that upon you. The city disappears as a result of God throwing all of his judgment in the course of 1 hour, in the course of one day. What's the response? And this is something that John begins to observe as he's looking around. Babylon has been destroyed. The Roman European new system that has arisen, false religion and false government, here finally meets its end. The kings of the earth who had committed sexual immorality, and I say that, which means they have chosen to abandon God and to trust in her. That's where they find value. That's what they find as valuable. And shared her sensuality and excessive ways will weep and mourn over her when they see the smoke from her burning. They will start off in fear of her torment, saying, woe, woe, the great city, Babylon, the mighty city, for in a single hour your judgment has come. The merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her because no one buys their cargo any longer. Cargo of gold, silver, jewels, pearls, fine linen, purple, silk, scarlet, all kinds of fragrant wood products, objects of ivory, objects of expensive wood, brass, iron, marble, cinnamon, spice, intense myrrh, frankincense, wine, olive oil, fine flour and grain, cattle and sheep, horse, carriage. Slaves. Human lives. They're trafficking humans. Folks, all the things that we are reading probably to you sound a little less like other nations and a little bit more like us. That should trouble you. Verse 14 is interesting because it says, the fruit you craved has left you. All your splendid and glamorous things are gone. They will never find them again. The merchants of these things who became rich from her will stand far off in fear of her torment, weeping and mourning, saying, woe, 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 the great city, dressed in fine linen, purple and scarlet, adorned with gold, jewels, and pearls, for in a single hour such fabulous wealth was destroyed. Verse 14 says, the fruit you craved has left you. The word for fruit, there's a Greek word for fruit. That is not the word being used here. In fact, this is a different word for fruit. And it's normally a fruit that it's a refreshing fruit that you would find during the summer. Then it says the fruit that you longed for is no more. Longed for is another, we could translate it better to lust. Pastor Johnny, are you saying that this is a sexual thing? No. Rather, what I'm saying is, whatever fruit this is that was only grown in Babylon and offered by Babylon is now gone. But it was whatever kind of fruit it was so desirable that it was causing an addictive behavior. It was getting to the point where everyone was craving it. It wasn't just a desire. It wasn't just you should totally go to the restaurants. They have this one fruit that is amazing. Not like that. It was I need it. I have to have it. It's kind of like Bilbo in The Lord of the Rings. It's like, goodness, man, you're precious. I get it. Keep reading with me. The rest of verse 17. And every shipmaster, seafarer, and sailor, and all who do business by sea stood far off, and they watched the smoke from her burning and kept crying out, who was like the great city? And they threw dust on their heads and kept crying out, weeping and mourning. Woe, the great city, where all of those who have ships in the sea became rich from her wealth, for in a single hour she was destroyed. Rejoice over her, heaven. I'll read that again. Rejoice over her, heaven. And you saints, apostles, and prophets, because God has pronounced on her the judgment she has passed on you. Now, wait. I thought as Christians, we need to have compassion. We do. Well, I thought as Christians, we're supposed to go into the world. We do. But you'll notice there's a couple verses here that here's what God is declaring. For those of you who have wondered, man, it just seems unjust that this world is constantly on our case. This world is constantly saying, you're judging, you're this and you're that. And it's we're trying to help and they're treating us like we're the bad guys. What's going on? There is gonna come a day when that very attitude and those who have that attitude will be judged. And God is saying it's time to rejoice. Yes, not rejoice over the destruction of people. Rather to rejoice over the destruction of what once had them chained. What once had them as slaves. You'll notice that one of the verses earlier said, come out of her. It was a call to those who were in her, but were God followers, God fearers, those who were believers. To which God is saying, don't live like she does. Come on, get out of that area, get out of that place, because the plagues are coming and they're going to affect you. But because you choose to pursue holiness, and I say that very clearly, it's not our job to implement holiness into this world. It's also not our job to tell people what they are do and not doing right or doing wrong. Because 90% of the time, even we don't know what we're doing wrong or we don't want to acknowledge it. Our job is to pursue holiness. Our job is to pursue holiness. And to invite others to pursue holiness too. There's a difference between setting up a system that says, here are the set of rules of do's and don'ts. That's a religion. A relationship with God says, God, I love you so much and I enjoy your presence, which is holy, that I want to pursue holiness. I want to pursue you. And whatever you do and however you do it, that is my desire. I want to become like that. Notice the difference. One is just a control freak. The other one is in a pursuit of the holy. Come out of her. I'm asking you who are watching this, maybe this could be a repentance time. Now, are we done? No, we're not done. There's more. Then a mighty angel picked up a stone, like a large milestone, and threw it into the sea, saying, "In this way, Babylon the Great will be thrown down violently and never be found again." Never, ever. The sound of harpists, musicians, flutists, trumpeters, will never be heard in you again. No craftsman of any trade will ever be found in you again. The sound of a mill will never be heard in you again. The light of the lamp will never shine in you again. The voice of a groom and bride will never be heard in you again. All this will happen because your merchants were the nobility of the earth, because all the nations were deceived by your sorcery. By the way, that's the word pharmakeia, which is where we get the word pharmacy. Are you saying there's drugs involved? Well, it's better translated witchcraft, which is, how do you cast spells? Well, you convince someone by manipulating their mind, like what drugs do sometimes, to convince them to pursue something that's not righteous or unholy. You have deceived by your sorcery. In her was found the blood of prophets and saints and all of those who slaughtered on the earth. Anything is permissible. Not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible. But I will not be mastered by anything. You see, folks, Babylonianism is alive today. Yes, there will come a day when we will see a European New Rome rise up. We will see an Antichrist. We will see a false prophet. We will see the harlot, the false religion. We will see a false government that is going to offer all the riches in the world. If you'll notice, have you looked at the list of things that were categorized in chapter 18? I want to make this clear. The things that were explained don't have in them anything wrong. All of a sudden, we're talking about spices, fruits, apples, bananas. We're talking about animals. We're talking about gold, silver, jewelry. Like, we're talking about all these things. And you're like, okay, so we're supposed to hate all this? Like, we can't enjoy? That's where many Christians have gotten it wrong. There's nothing wrong with the enjoyment of the material things that are on this planet. But to put it in an appropriate context, here's what Paul said. Anything is permissible. In other words, I can do whatever I want. But just because I want to do it doesn't mean that it's going to benefit me. Not everything is beneficial. I can go get on an airplane, I can fly to Alaska, and I can say, you know what? I'm going to get down into my board shorts, and I'm going to find the biggest lake that is frozen over. I'm going to make a hole in it, and I'm going to jump in there, and I'm going to experience what ice cold water really feels like. Do you know what that's going to do? It's going to cause hypothermia, and I will die. But I want to do it. See, anything is permissible, meaning you have the capability of doing whatever you want. Go ahead, do whatever. Read a book, go to the beach, snorkel, go to another country, enjoy eating pancakes in Paris. Go, whatever the case is. But you will not be mastered by anything. What I mean by that is we are living in a society that already has Babylonianism in it. A society that says if I don't have what I feel is most important to me, then I'm going to throw a fit. Is this starting to make sense now? When we say, oh man, you know what? I'm going to pick on some people because this is a perfect example. When you're driving through the Starbucks line and you decide to get a white chocolate mocha, which is one of my favorites, you drive in and then you get your white chocolate mocha and you drink it. But they didn't put it to the 122 degrees that you wanted. And they didn't put in the full one pump of the mocha. And the coffee that they had put in, the shot that they had put in, maybe you wanted poured at 22 seconds rather than the 23. And you notice that the lid was not pointed north the way that you want. And I know you're probably thinking, okay, now you're being facetious, you're being funny. No, this is what human beings do. They go into the Starbucks line, they get their little white chocolate mocha, and then they go, oh my gosh, can you remake this? You guys are so stupid. That is the problem. where you feel that you are the center of the universe. That is the problem. Because someday that cup of coffee will be gone. Someday the charcuterie board, or whatever you want to call it, that was full of the meats and the olives and all that, enjoy it. But this does not define who you are. What kind of drink you have in your hand does not determine your value. How skinny you are does not determine your beauty. Just like how powerful you are does not actually determine that you're a nice person. How influential you are does not actually give you wealth and or value in your soul. What are you leaning on is my question. What exactly are you determining to be the most valuable thing in your life? It might be your phone. You might look at your phone going, if I didn't have this, I don't know what I would do. Yeah, you do. It's called reading a book. You would simply stop staring at a screen and you would actually enjoy the color green that is out on the earth, or the color blue, or the yellow, or a butterfly, or a bird, or possibly a puppy. Everything is permissible, folks, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible, but I will not be mastered by anything. You see, Babylon was offering all the riches of the world, but in such a way that you overindulged them, you became addicted to them, you became defined by them. And that is why her sensuality was overly focused, because we said, God, we no longer need you. We are not defined by you. We don't find our value in you. You're just not as fun as. What I'm saying is this. No, I'm not calling you guys to a life of poverty. I'm not calling you to abandon all things. What I'm calling you to do, and what I'm asking you to do, what I'm pleading with you, is there the chance that you have determined that everything else is more valuable than your relationship with God? Is it possible that you have determined that your relationship with God is more valuable than God himself? Is it possible that the center of the universe is you and not God? You see, Babylonianism is the temptation that every Christian on this planet faces. Every human being faces. Will I trust in God, or will I lean on everything else? Sometimes it's the trust in what we have and what we own. That we can lose in a moment's notice. Sometimes it's in the people that we know and that we have. Oh, as long as I know these people, I can get into XYZ, and then they disappear. Sometimes it's the titles that we have. I have this title, and that's going to take me to, the end of the world, and I'm going to become this great, and then your title is lost. The moment anything becomes more powerful than we are, the moment something takes power over us, we have lost. We are now the slaves. I will not be mastered by anything, because Jesus, through the cross, has set me free. Brings more meaning to it, doesn't it? Grace and peace be with you. This is the way. Have a phenomenal Sunday.